So in my previous video I showed you my table of shame. And today I'm going to pick a few succulents from it, identify the problem and attempt to fix it where possible. I do apologize in advance as this is going to be a bit of a long one, though I have tried my best to edit out unimportant things and me waffling on. So without further ado, here are the succulents with various issues we're going to be fixing today. Some have the same problem and I'll be grouping them together as otherwise we'd be here for a good half hour, and who has time for that these days. The first problem is severely root-bound plants. The explanation of the problem and how to fix it is going to take longest in this part, as I will show you and explain the process. In the next part, I'll identify the problem, tell you how to fix it, but won't show you the fix as I'd be just repeating myself and showing you the same fix you've already seen, just with different plants. As a consequence of being root bound, some have grown a bit tall, losing a lot of their leaves. This Graptoveria is way too tall for my liking, and so I'm going to take that one rosette off and repot it into a separate pot. This should force the bottom half to grow more rosettes, but it also needs to be repotted into a bigger pot with fresh new potting mix so it has the energy to grow. This crested red ives just needs a new bigger pot and fresh potting mix. It is so root bound, it's used up all the nutrients and cannot grow any more than this. When succulents are kept in the same pot for too long, especially smaller pots like we have here, they can really start losing leaves due to lack of energy. With this sedum, I've decided to trim some of the longer branches and repot them as cuttings. The rest will be split up into 3 to 4 bits and potted up into new pots. You can also just repot the whole thing into a bigger pot, but I want a few smaller pots. Our next plant, the Aeonium sunburst, has been already beheaded some 8 months ago, but I never repotted it, which is why it looks a bit spindly. Had I repotted back then, the rosettes would be quite a lot bigger now. All of this brown dead stuff are leaves that died because of my neglect. Then we have the Senecio that doesn't tolerate being root bound well and is slowly losing leaves. I've also found lots of root mealybugs, thankfully just in this pot, but there's so many I'm not even going to attempt drenching. That root ball is going straight in the bin and I'll repot the top as a cutting. Sometimes it's just not worth it trying to save the roots when there's this many, as it is likely the drench would not kill all of them. These are the 2 final root bound plants. I absolutely love the color on this succulent and want to get more rosettes, so we'll be chopping that tall branch off. Fingers crossed this will encourage more bushy growth. Our last root bound plant is desperate for a new home. The aerial roots forming on the stem are trying hard to root into new soil. I think the best way forward with this is to separate all of the rosettes and plant them into new pots. And here we have the first bunch fixed up. I've upgraded the pot for all of those root bound plants. In 3 to 4 months they will be grown well into their new pots. This is the sedum. I've split it into 4 and they should start growing in no time. And this is the succulent with aerial roots. I've popped 3-4 rosettes into one pot for faster results. And finally, all of the cuttings I took were potted up in small pots. They should send first roots in about 2 weeks from now. I also want to show you a few succulents I've given this treatment to a couple of months ago to give you an idea of what these will end up looking like. Here's a cutting of Echeveria malaco and an older plant that once looked just like it. The sedum does an amazing transformation fast and only takes maybe a month to go from our small plant to this lush pot. And the Graptoveria tricolor should take a couple of months to go from this little cutting to a growing plant. Our next group is not looking great due to water damage. These succulents did not like the storms and heavy rain we had over the past few months. This succulent lost a lot of its leaves and also has edema on the remaining ones. Same with the Echeveria here. The last month has been fairly dry, so the new leaves look a bit better. Marks on the bottom leaves are permanent, and so I'll be getting rid of them. I spy a bit of black spot fungus on the bottom leaves. It's already been treated, but unfortunately the discoloration will never go away. This is dry rot and it has been treated with a fungicide. I find many of the frilly Echeveria are very prone to fungal disease when wet and humid. The brown leaves here look to be affected by edema. And our last plant, a Graptoveria bashful, just hates being overwatered. There's signs of edema and some of the leaves have split from being too full of water. All of these succulents should ideally be grown in a ventilated rainproof greenhouse. To fix this, I'm going to separate the rosettes, remove all the marked leaves and replant in separate pots. Some rosettes are too small to separate, so they'll be left as they are. Here I'll remove all of the dead as well as the marked leaves and chop the top off as it's way too tall. If you don't mind the plant being a bit tall, you can just leave it as is. And the rest of the plants will receive the same treatment. First I'll get rid of the disease marked leaves. If rootbound, I'll repot, and all of them are then going to live in a greenhouse. If you don't have a greenhouse, a bright covered patio will be good as well. Succulents that don't deal well with rain and humidity should be kept as dry as possible and only watered once every now and again when the potting mix has dried out completely. They may also need to be preemptively treated with fungicide, as spores of fungal diseases travel in the air and easily get into greenhouses as well. Now, not all succulents are like this. Many deal with wet weather and humidity quite well. I grow most of my succulents outdoors, exposed to the elements, and as long as they have good water draining potting mix and are exposed to enough sun, they tolerate being in the rain. The next problem we'll be fixing is damage by pests. These plants all have the same problem, grubs. While they mostly feed on roots, they can easily collapse a whole plant. As they feed, they also work the soil. It's as if mini cultivators have been used to break apart the potting mix. Most of the roots have been eaten and the grubs have moved on to the stem and the leaves. I don't have to dig very deep to find them. To fix this, we'll be removing the plants from the pots, getting rid of any damaged leaves and repotting. If you have chickens, they will love the grubs. I will be making a separate video on grubs in the next couple of weeks, so if you're interested in how to manage them, stay tuned. These succulents have been damaged by mealybugs and aphids. They've already been treated. The dark marks and deformed leaves are due to the wounds both mealies and aphids create as they feed. They are permanent and will not go away. These rosettes are too damaged, and so I'm just going to cut them off. This should force new ones to grow. To not waste them, you can take most of the marked leaves off and plant them into new pots. The other two plants will receive the same treatment. I'm also going to repot all of them to help them produce new growth. Our last problem to fix is sunburn. We did have a few over 40 degrees Celsius or 104 Fahrenheit days during summer, and some plants have unfortunately suffered burns. Just like with our previous issues, the damage to the leaves is permanent. The only thing to do is get rid of the leaves and repot rootbound plants to encourage new growth. And that is that for today. I hope this video was useful, and if you have anything to add or would like to ask a question, you can do so below. To learn more about succulents, hit that subscribe button or go to our website succulentgrowingtips.com. Thank you so very much for watching.